This is Three of Skeins Knit and Crochet Podcast, episode number 119, and I am Lisa.
I'm Chris.
And what are we starting with today? I have a couple of whips. This is sort of like an unofficial project. I started this scarf because I wanted to practice knitting throwing style because I normally knit continental style. But then I intended for it to be a swatch, but it turned into a scarf because I liked it so much. And I had some leftover orange yarn, so I was like, all right, let me just use up some of this orange yarn. And I popped in some stripes because it was fun. This is something I adapted from a scarf I saw on Pearl Soho. I can't remember what it's called, but I'll put the name in. I think it's garter rib scarf, I think. So I just wanted to make mine a bit narrower. So I used their stitch pattern and just did it on fewer stitches. And I just love all the texture I'm getting out of this. And my throwing is really improving. I've gotten to the point now where, although I still start left-handed sometimes, I can just go ahead and grab it. And I'm developing some ability to tension the yarn, which I was never really able to do as a thrower. And I'm still using my straight needles. I think I'm fully converted to them, unless I'm doing something large circumference in the round. So this is my accidental project. What do you think?
Supposed to be making a skirt. So it's gonna be like one of those handkerchief hem things, and I'm realizing that handkerchief hem may not be ideal for crochet because you need a lot of extra fabric to just like hang there. And I don't know if I have enough of this yarn to make the skirt and another piece that I was gonna make to go with the skirt all out of this yarn. So right now we're trying to figure out some sort of color block situation because I'm gonna have to mix colors to make sure I have enough yarn. I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna like how it looks, but I just don't know if it's worthwhile to add so much fabric, one stitch at a time. But this is what I have so far. Not very much in the way of a skirt. It's actually, I'm working sideways, so this will be the length. I'm using some cotton crochet thread and a 1.75 millimeter hook.
Okay, first. 1.75 millimeter?
Well, you get
that's amazing. The fabric is beautiful.
Fabric.
Yeah.
Even just going up to 2 millimeter, you think, oh, it's not that big a difference between 1.75 and 2 millimeter, but it is. It really it changes the fabric itself. So the 1.75 is actually just working much better for me. So take a look at the stitch pattern. This is linen stitch, but I'm working extended single crochets instead of regular single crochets. And I mean, I don't know if you can see that it's just elongating those stitches, but still giving you that textured weave you get from linen stitch. I like it very, very, very much.
The fabric is beautiful, and the yarn itself has a sheen to it that I like very much.
So this is my progress so far.
Can I ask, how are you going to achieve the handkerchief hem situation? Are you doing like godets? What are you doing?
No, so basically you just make a rectangle. I'm making it 2 rectangles, one for the front, one for the back. And you make the rectangles just a lot wider than you need to be. wider than they need to be, and then everything that doesn't, sit at the waist is just gonna
Got it.
I got this from that Nora Gone book, Knit, Fold, Pleat, Repeat. She shows a few different ways to kind of achieve that effect. And not sure crochet thread was the way to go. But I wanted cotton. I needed cotton because I wanted it to be for summer, and I wanted it to be, I know there's a whole theory of wearing wool in the summer, but
not where we live.
I wanted it to be light enough weight to get good drape, and I happen to have quite a bit of crochet thread. I could see me doing like a fall winter version in a heavier yarn. In fact, that's something I might do, and it'll probably go so much faster. But I mean, I have to be honest. I like it.
It's
I
beautiful.
do. I'm not like,
There's nothing not to like. It's gorgeous.
I'm not like regretting my choices. I'm just finally realizing the consequences of those choices. But it's okay. It'll be fine.
Let me ask you, when you are working out a design, do you use your swatches to sort of approximate how much yarn you're going to need ahead of time?
No.
Okay. Because I was wondering if I should do that.
You can.
Because I don't design as much as you do. And I'm like, I don't want to like wonder, am I going to have enough yarn for this? Because I'm starting to wonder some things.
So basically what I'm going to do in this instance is I'm going to just see how much fabric I get from one bulk.
Yeah.
And that will help me like make my estimates, because I'm almost positive. I chose this color because I have more of this color than any other color. And I still don't think it's going to be enough to make 2 pieces, which is the goal. So we might make some edits actually to that other piece I was planning to make. But yeah, I'll have a better idea of my yarn usage once this ball is finished, and then I can just measure the width of the fabric. But no, I typically don't guesstimate my yarn usage, and I don't recommend that. Either you have plenty of that yarn, or you're crossing your fingers. And it's just because I just want to just get started. You know what I mean? Doing the math, from my swatch is an absolute necessity. Otherwise, I would just rip out over and over and over again if I just had to like pick random numbers for my number of starting stitches.
Yeah.
But so I do that every time. But yeah, I don't do my yarn estimates.
Because I haven't done that.
Maybe we'll get there one day.
On my project, but I'm starting to feel like I should, because I'm getting insecure about whether or not I have enough yarn for the
I would
complete
say don't
project.
ignore that feeling.
Somebody tried to tell me something, huh? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I see it.
Or just have, backup plan. Just
Yeah.
say, oh, I can change this part of the skirt, or I can do something else if I don't have enough. But my plans for a garment have become a lot more flexible than they used to be.
How do you feel about that?
Better now.
Good.
I don't know where I got this idea from, that once you make your plan and your sketch and your measurements and all that stuff, that everything will always go according to plan. That never happens. That's not a thing. But now I realize I just kind of wanted a direction to start in. And I realize that as I'm working, I'm going to have to make changes. I'm going to have to be flexible. And it's fine. It's fine. It's come to be fine. Because I just now consider that part of the design process. And maybe that's just the story I tell myself. or maybe it is just part of the design process. But, you know, I'm rolling with the punches a lot better than I ever thought possible. So I can't really tell you what this skirt will look like in its finished form because, yeah.
I can't wait to see it. So the other thing are you done?
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I'm working on is the vest I designed. I will pop a picture of what it's supposed to look like in. Sometimes I feel like I overcomplicate things when I'm working on something. So my first idea involved, intarsia and this and that and the other. And I was like, you know what? Let's not do all of that. I decided to work my vest in pieces. So it's going to have a back, a front, and 2 side panels. So that eliminates intarsia. I will be doing mosaic knitting on the back and front panel, and the side panel are stockinette. Imagine that.
That wasn't always the plan?
No.
Oh.
Yeah, I overcomplicated.
Mm.
So this week I sat down and calculated out the measurements of the piece, and I did not like doing all that mathing. We had a conversation about that. It was just like a lot of mathing involved.
My half of the conversation was suck it up. It was like, math is not the enemy. It's okay though.
She likes math parties. I do not. So I was able to just go ahead and start knitting after the math party was over. I did my final swatches, washed and blocked the swatches. So here's my mosaic pattern. It's going to be vine, branches, vines. And here is my side panel swatch. So it'll look something like this, which I think is so cool. Very nature inspired. I'm feeling like it's very nature inspired. And I was able to finish one of the side panels this week. And I decided to start with the easiest part. And once I have all my pieces completed, I will wash and block them and then just sew them together. And that part was going to be pretty easy. Now I measured my swatches, right? I washed my swatch, I blocked my swatch. This is non-superwash wool. So I ended up soaking it and just laying it out to dry. And I measured it. But when I did my panel, this panel is supposed to be 4 3/8 inches wide and 12 inches long. And at my gauge, let me see, for the side panel, my row gauge is supposed to be something like, I don't know, 8 rows per inch. So that I thought that I would have to do about 71 rows. I ended up having to do 76 rows, and I'm not sure why my calculation was that off in the length. Now the width was just fine. I don't know if maybe I didn't measure correctly or what. Or maybe my gauge was just slightly different over a longer patch of knitting.
I mean, I know with crochet, I don't know if it's analogous in knitting. My stitches are shorter than average because there's a thing you do called pulling up your stitches, and I don't pull up my stitches. So when I follow patterns from books, my gauge was always off in the vertical compared to
Mine too,
the horizontal. But I don't know if there's something analogous to pulling up your stitches in knitting that would make your stitches a little bit shorter.
And I'm only concerned because I'm measuring it off my own gauge. I did measure in inches.
And I am starting to believe that inches are less than ideal for gauging, just because there's a wider margin for error compared to millimeters.
So you switched over completely to millimeters?
I have.
You know what? I think my next project, I'm going to have to do that. But I forget.
My
go-to is inches.
Is that I think in inches.
Yeah.
So I know I take them dimensions in centimeters, but I still think of my dimensions in inches. So I will, even if I start off in inches, say, okay, I want this to be like, say, 20 inches wide, I will convert that to centimeters first and then do all my measurements in centimeters because I'm starting to suspect
Yeah.
inches against side eye.
Is it because of the fractional nature of it? I don't know.
I don't know, maybe it's just dividing an inch into 8 portions, but dividing centimeters into 10 portions, and centimeters are overall smaller to start with.
Yeah.
So you're just dealing with smaller increments. So even if, because every increment that you're off gets multiplied by the number of inches or the number of centimeters you do. So if you're off by a millimeter compared to being off by 1/8 of an inch,
Yeah.
you're just going to be off a lot less overall. So that's my theory.
That's something I'm going to try. I'm going to have to make sure and do it because sometimes in the heat of the moment, I don't even think about that kind of thing. I'm like, okay, how many inches is it? But, all right. Remind me that when you see me frantically measuring, that I'm supposed to be working in centimeters. So I've got one panel completed. I have the other one on the needles. It's not the exciting part, but I know, not at all. But I'm just going, so I counted my rows and I'm going to just make sure I do the same number of rows on this side. And I was like halfway up to here when I said, oh, darn it, you could have done this 2 at a time. But it was too late by then. But that's where we're at. Side panels, one completed. What else are you working on?
Other one project, because you know.
That's how you roll.
But I think I mentioned that I had ordered some books from Thrift Books.
Oh.
So they finally, because they came from all over the country. When you go online to like Thrift Books and you order, all your books are in the little same shopping cart. So you forget that they're coming from different sellers. So my books came from Maryland, Illinois, and Arizona. It took a while for all of them to get here. But I got Crochet Pink by Janet Ruffelt. This is just a book I had been not buying for many, many years. Just because every time I saw it, it was so pricey. And then I got it from Thrift Books for like less than $10. So this is from 2013. But I always liked this jacket on the cover, and it's like super simple. And I like that she's using some lightweight yarn. She's got some nice stitch patterns in here. It's one of those all things to all people books. So it's got, garments, it's got slippers, it's got, mug hugs and things. But still, I can just adapt the stitch patterns and make what I like out of them. But, mittens. I think those are cute. But I'm glad to see a book with crochet patterns that's using lighter weight yarns like this is done in mohair. I think that's actually really cute. But yeah, this is just a book that had been on my mind for a while, and I finally got it. Then I mentioned the crochet sock book that I wanted.
That's cute.
And I will be, also by Janet Ruffelt and Mary Jane Wood. So I will be attempting some of the socks in this book. And see those ones at the bottom? No heel and no toe. It's a cheat sock. I love it. You just leave off the hard parts. This is Today's Crochet Sweaters from the Crochet Guild of America by Susan Huxley. Just another book that, I wouldn't say all of these are terribly contemporary, but just some cute ideas, basic shapes. And honestly, I treat any pattern book also like it's a Stitch dictionary. So I don't have to, exactly recreate what's in the book, but I really like the stitch pattern on this garment on the cover.
That's pretty.
So I will be using that for something. I don't know if I'll be making a tunic, but I will definitely be adapting that stitch pattern for something. And this is Positively Crochet. This is another one of those books I've been looking at for ages and just never got around to buying. I'm not gonna lie, it's a little kooky. But there it is. But there's some like just riddle me this. What's happening?
Oh.
What are we doing here? Yeah, it's a little kooky. But they caught me with this thing on the cover. That's actually like really cute, right? So it's a mixed bag, but again, just useful to see different construction techniques and different stitch patterns. Yeah, it's a little kooky. Yeah, look at that. Isn't she pretty? I like that one. And you know, for less than full retail, does seem like a much better deal. And this is Vanna's favorite crochet gift. If you don't know, Vanna White from which one is it?
Wheel
Not
of
Jeopardy.
Fortune?
Yes, Wheel of Fortune. She's like an OG crocheter. She's been crocheting like since the 80s, putting out pattern books. She has her own line of yarn with Lion Brand, and she does like a lot of Afghans specifically, but she does some other things too. But she's got like a million books. And this book I like because it's got some color work in it. I mean, look at that blanket. Go ahead, Vanna.
That's gorgeous.
But it's got a number of different techniques. And again, I don't like who was doing that, but it's okay. You win some, you lose some. But see, like that's just a really pretty stitch pattern on that blanket. So you can just find the things that are most useful to you. So I just like having access to a very large well of ideas. And that's how I've come to look at pattern books. I don't consider them like a set of instructions for making the object that's in front of me. Instead, I just kind of pull the pieces that I need. So sometimes it's the stitch pattern, sometimes it's the overall shape or construction, sometimes it's the yarn itself, because you know most books will have a list in the back of all the yarns that they use. And even if they're discontinued, you can just look at you can look at the composition of the yarn and look for something similar. So I find pattern books incredibly useful even if you're not following patterns. And so I am just very deliberately and specifically building a library of as many books as I can find that I find interesting, because you never know what's going to spark your next idea. Never know where you find your next dim sum.
Trask Radio, baby.
So that's my little book haul.
Nice one. Well, I don't know if you guys know, but this week is New Jersey Wool Walk. And I think it's going to go from the 17th
To the 21st.
to the
So
21st.
Wednesday to Sunday.
Wednesday to Sunday.
And we've already walked the wool.
We did.
So if you haven't been with us very long, last month was the first ever Greater Philly Yarn Crawl. There were 16 stores. We made it to 11 of them. And things happened. Yarn was purchased, okay? We decided the plan was for the New Jersey Wool Walk was to actually just go to these two stores that we've been meaning to go to, but we never quite get to because they're really far. And by the time I go to the closest, so there's like the near stores and the intermediate stores and then the far stores, right? So it's like 30 minutes, an hour, hour and a half. So by the time we do the near stores and the far stores, intermediate stores kind of get shunted to the side. So this year we were like, well, we're just going to go to the two intermediate stores, which for us is the Yarn Addict and the Spinnery. So Wednesday, we went to the yarn attic. And I'll show you mom's yarn first. She got Issachar Eco Soft, and this is a 56% alpaca, 44% organic cotton.
Nice. I wish you could feel that. It feels like a bunny.
It is really nice though. And then I got, now that I have it, I feel like I maybe, if I don't have this yarn, I have something very similar. But I have as Linnea Pura from Lana Grossa, and this is Solo Lino, which is a linen yarn, and I believe it's 80% recycled linen and 20% linen. So, and it's already got a knot in it. Don't get me started. I just got 4 skeins, 2 in each of these colors. Yeah, I thought it'd be cute to make like a little tank top or something, or even a shawl. I'm thinking about making shawls out of things other than wool. I feel like that's not like a thing, but maybe it should be. So there could be a shawl in my future. Because I've seen a lot of, I don't know, I feel like a lot of patterns for crochet shawls are often worsted weight. I mean, now I think you see more finger and weight ones. But I had, like, some older books that I have a lot of patterns for worsted weight shawls. And I'm like, ooh, is that what we're doing? As a matter of fact, I think this was a worsted weight shawl in the original pattern, and I made it out of fingering weight instead. So I was thinking I could just take some of those big old chunky shawls and just make them in a lighter weight yarn. So
I got Barocco and Solo. And where did we get these from?
Yarn Attic.
Yarn Attic. We went to the Yarn Attic. I went there specifically with summer yarn in mind because I'm gonna switch over to summer yarn in June when it gets really hot. It's a beautiful cotton. It's a cotton and linen, like 38% linen, 38% cotton, 36% linen, 26% viscose. So it has a bit of a gleam, and it's ombre. I am in love, and it was on clearance. So I snatched up 4 skeins because they are 284 yards a skein, and I'm sure I can get at least a tee out of it. I'm very excited.
And that's the haul.
Yeah.
Because we still didn't make it to the stairs.
But here's the funny thing. All right, so we're on the way back. The store's about an hour from us. Crystal's like, I don't feel exhausted. It's like bizarre to come back from wall walking and not be like on a high and exhausted all at the same time.
Yeah, and it was nice. And it was just like,
we had a whole discussion about, well, should we?
I really considered like going out to a couple more stores. I'm like, is it supposed to be this easy? The one of the women who worked at Yarn Attic, she said I was having more of a stroll. I was like, yes, a yarn stroll. That's more what we're doing.
Maybe we can try that more often. We do a yarn stroll rather than our frantic, exuberant.
I don't know what it is. I don't know why the fever just spikes. But yeah, so we were supposed to go to the spinnery yesterday, but that's just a hair over an hour away, and I didn't feel like driving all that way. Like, did I want to see a yarn store I hadn't been to before? Yes, of course. But did I actually want to buy any more yarn?
And I think that was the place we all got to. We just had to admit to ourselves, we didn't want to buy any more yarn. So it really didn't make sense to trek. 2 hours total.
Can I always find yarn that I like at almost any yarn store? Yes. So had I gone to the spinnery, I would have purchased yarn. But I really want to get to like some stuff that I already have. So it just didn't seem necessary. So we had 2 very different yarn crawl experiences.
Yeah, and going to one store was actually really, we had already planned we were going to go to one store on one day and one store on the next day. So no franticness, no all day adventure. And it was kind of relaxed and relaxing because we were able to spend as much time as we wanted at the store. You know, there was no sense of urgency to get on to the next place. Because, you know, yard stores typically close fairly early, so you're always like counting down in your mind. And it was good. It was like, and all told, in the last 2 months, we visited 12 yarn stores when you add it all up. That's a lot of yarn store trekking.
A little tiny bit. So it turns out that a wool walk or a yarn crawl isn't like a command.
Come forth and buy yarn.
And you can just like choose to go to less stores or buy less yarn, and who knew?
Who knew it could be
It's
like
news
that?
to me.
Yeah, who knew it could be like that?
So yeah, we just decided to take it easy this time. So technically the wool walk is still happening as we film. But we're just chilling.
We're done. We didn't even buy a passport ahead of time.
No, we got the passport there at the store. Just because the passport gets you the discount.
Mhm.
So, you know, you gotta get the passport to save some money. But we're done. So our passport, you know, it's different stores.
You know, we should have left the passport there. Oh, but we were planning to go somewhere else too.
Yeah, but we didn't get we wouldn't have gone to enough stores to be in a raffle. So it doesn't matter because it's like a minimum.
Oh, true that.
So what they do is each store you go to, they put a little letter in the box, and the whole thing will spell out a phrase. So all we have is an N. I have no idea what the phrase
What the phrase
is
is this year. It's different every year.
So and that's just the way it is, and it's fine. It really is fine.
So you are valid if you only go to 1 or 2 shops when you're wool walking. And I thought the shop was really lovely in and of itself.
Yeah, she had a ton of samples.
Oh my
I
God.
don't know how she's doing that.
This is I'll put in some footage of the shop, but I have never seen so many samples in one shop. I think the only place I've seen near as many samples is at Wool Bearers. That's it. But it was kind of astonishing. And she does a lot of kits based on the samples. And it was actually a really lovely little shop. The only thing is, if you do go to the Yarn Attic, just be aware you can't see it from the street.
Yeah, there's a parking lot. Take the leap of faith, turn into the parking lot, go around the curve, you'll see it.
Yeah. So it's
Because I'm looking at my GPS and then I'm looking up and I was like,
I don't see
this
it.
says it's here, but I see no building. But just go into that parking lot.
Yeah.
It's there.
But beautiful shop, really fun. I think they had a really nice selection. If you're interested in non-wool yarns, they did have an entire wall that was completely non-wool yarns, which I happen to like because so many stores, they're just chock full of wool and it's hard to find anything else. But I think that's about it. All right. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time.
Stay stitching.